Alright, let's see here. We have sound into OBS, it looks like. Almost ready here. There's a few more of the streams, because we don't need all of these. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Tim. Go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. We are working on CircuitPython. If you're new, I don't suspect we get too many new people watching, but just in case we have somebody watching the video, if you're new and you don't know what we're talking about, CircuitPython.org, you can learn more. Also, the Discord that's linked down below there. It's an open source project. It's an implementation of Python that runs on these tiny computers like this one. This little thing is, I don't know, just my finger for scale, maybe a couple inches or something. There's a full computer inside of here essentially, and we're running Python code on that computer. And in this case, there's also a Wi-Fi chip inside of here, so we're able to connect up to the internet and, you know, fetch data and send stuff up there and all that stuff. How's it going, Oak Studio? So last night we played with this a bit. I was working on trying to make a trivia game with a web server. We ran into issues where once my file got too big, it was not seeming to get returned the right way. I did play with that a bit more, and I just wanted to show what I found. And I'll make an issue for this at some point, but I have not done that yet. I essentially tested this out with a dummy HTML file with lorem ipsum inside of it. And I found on the Pico W, the limit, at least in my case, for whatever reason, seems to be this this exact number, 2,920 bytes. If it tries to return any more than this, then it takes a long time. Like this got finished in half a second. If we add one more byte to this, it's going to take about 10 seconds, and then the client is just going to like think that it's over and it never received anything. So like something is making it stall and not send or something like that. Let's see, let's go back. I think this should be running, so we can, I'll run this one. So right there, we fetched this page. This page right now is 2920 bytes, and we got it even faster that time, 300 milliseconds. If I add one byte to this page and save it, and then let this thing reset as well. And then try the fetch again. It will not finish very quickly. It will take about 10 seconds. I don't know if this thing prints the time. The browser developer tools print the time though, so I was able to see that. How's it going, C. Grover and Paul Cutler? Good morning. 2921, and this is basically, so this thing I'm using to test it is sending a GET request to the URL. This is basically like a kind of API tester that's built into PyCharm. Essentially, this would be the same as typing this address into my browser, though, which we'll go do that as well. But it's saying server told us that we were going to be getting back 2921 bytes, but we actually got back 0 bytes. The same thing over here. So we reload, and this will take, again, right about 10 seconds, which makes me think something somewhere is timing out. Because it's fairly consistent. Like, this one took 10.14 seconds, and then the browser thought that the request was done, but we didn't actually receive anything. We got a 200 response, but we didn't get any data, 0 bytes. This page also doesn't show response headers, but we must have gotten response headers, I think. Otherwise, this one in here wouldn't know how many bytes to expect. So my guess is this is a quirk of not receiving a body. The dev tools decided not to show the response headers for some reason. Because something must have come back to give the other one the size. Anyway, though, that seems to be the limit, 2920. Well, 2920 is on the good side of the limit. You can return 2920. You cannot return 2921. That is too many. How's it going, Dexter? And I did test the same thing on a ESP32S2, specifically this one, Feather TFT. And that one does not have the same problem, or at least it doesn't have the same breakpoint. You can easily, no problem, you can send 2921. I even went up further into the 3000s and 4000s, and I was able to do it with no issues as well, and it was pretty quick as well. Just like this one was, 300 to 500 milliseconds when it does actually retrieve it at 2920. Even larger ones on the ESP32S2 were pretty much still the same speed. So that seems to be a magic number for the Pico W for some reason, 2920, when it tries to return that many bytes from the HTTP server. So I'll make an issue with that, but that's what I found, testing out that portion of it a bit further. Today, though, what I want to do is work on hooking up the display to the Pico W. I don't think I've used the display on any Raspberry Pi Picos that I can recall. So it'll be interesting to hook up a display for the first time and use DisplayIO, see how it goes. And then what we will try to do is also hook up this 1x4 Neo key, and then we'll put some buttons on it, and then we can try to make it, eventually we'll try to get back around to the trivia game where it will show the questions on the screen, and the 4 buttons will be your 4 possible answers. You press a button to indicate which one you want to guess, and then it will tell you if you're right or wrong. It'll keep track of your score and all that stuff. But we got to get the screen set up, and we got to get the buttons set up before we can even really get into the trivia portion of it. So to set up the screen, I pulled up the Learn Guide for this display. It is on a Feather instead of a Pico W, but we should be able to do most of the same stuff. So I have a ground rail. Let's scroll over. Scroll over? Can't scroll over. I have ground from our reset wires last night, so it looks like we need power. 3-volt power. And the Pico is labeled on the bottom, so we're going to need... Oops. Oh, it worked. Nice. Okay, 3 volts right there. Oh, there is 3 volt enabled. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth from the top. Top being the side with the USB on the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. And I'm actually just going to use this red wire from the reset for my power. And I'm going to jump the power to this side. That way we can connect the display to it easily. I'll probably scooch the display back some as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth. Uh-oh. There we go. And the ground jumps to the ground rail, which also jumps to the opposite side ground rail. So both the ground rails should be connected, and right now the power on the top rail should be connected. I will scoot this down some. We got a couple more rows to work with there. So we are going to need MOSI and MISO and SCK. I guess let's connect our powers though. So our display is upside down from that, which is a bummer. You know what I'm going to do is just flip this. Copy this. Go to here. Oops. Flip this. Okay. That's going to make this a lot easier, so we don't have to worry about like mentally trying to flip that. So in this orientation, the ground is the far right. We can put the camera. Afternoon. How's it going, Axel-Magnus? Horizontal power and ground rails are also split in the middle on that physical breadboard. Split in the middle? Like here? It doesn't go all the way down? I think it goes all the way down. You go get the multimeter, I guess. The red and blue lines are broken. Really? I have never noticed that before, and I've definitely used these But maybe I always just got lucky and stayed on 1/2? Um, okay, I guess, yeah, I'll get the multimeter. We definitely gotta check, because I'll need to jump those if they are not connected. I'm just gonna unplug the microcontroller for now. Mostly in this case I care about ground on this side. Yeah, sure enough. Wow. That is so crazy to me that I've just gotten lucky. Never known that and never had it like wreck anything before. Thank you for the heads up, by the way. So we could do this to here, which then gets us down to here and over to here. And then I guess power we could take over to here as well. Oops. I'm gonna make sure we're connected all the way through there. This is basically from ground at the microcontroller to ground on this far side quarter rail. Yeah. I don't really care about that rail. I don't really need this. Or this. Okay. So we have two powers, and it's the next one after ground, and it's the last one on the far left. And I'm going to do what I can to be color-coded, but I don't have the perfect set of colored wires, so some of it's going to be off. One power, and I think we're going to get orange for the other one instead of red. Oh, nope, we can have red, okay. Okay. 2 powers and ground all connected. All my prototype boards have short jumpers to close the gaps. Yes. We have a set of those little jumpers somewhere. I should probably just put some on there. I mean, I will say I use the smaller ones more. It's definitely a lot more common that I use the ones that are half this size, but I've definitely used the long ones before and assumed that that went through. Don't recall ever having an issue with it, so I must have just gotten lucky. Or never tracked down what the issue was, if I did have issues. Okay. So I think it's, these 3 are mostly miso and SCK. Yeah. Orange for miso. Yellow for mosi. And SCK. So one thing is they're in a different order, at least on this feather, from the order they're in here, because it's red, green, yellow, or orange, green, yellow, versus orange, yellow, green. So what is... SPY 0. It's not labeled the same. Hmm. I don't really know MO, MI versus TXRX. I don't really know which one actually would be which. But we can look on the board definition. Maybe get some help from there, potentially. Probably not, though. They're just labeled as GPIO because they match the silkscreen. Okay. Well, SCK will be the same. So SCK is, and we'll just use SPY 0, because our two SPY buses? Why are there 2 SCK pins? Huh. Either one can be used for the same SPY bus? There's 2 of lots of things. There's 2 of everything. Weird. Huh. Okay. So, I mean, does it matter? I don't think it matters which copy we use, right? I mean, we'll use SPY 0, and then SCK, there's 1 on pin 4. 1, 2, 3, 4th pin. Which for us, that is on this side, SCK is green, which is 1, 2, 3rd from the left. Okay. So my guess is transmit, receive. So main device is transmitting on this one, which would be MOSI. That's my guess. So we'll say 5th pin to MOSI. Which is yellow. Which is the next one over after green. Ooh, that's a bit of a stretch. Would we be closer? Have a longer yellow? Yeah, we're gonna hop this one in the middle. It's not the best, but it should work. My yellow is not quite really long enough to get there, but we can jump from this row. Fortunately, I guess we're probably gonna have to do something similar on a bunch of the others. Maybe we should just bite the bullet and move the display now. The newer large premium breadboards have the buses connected, colored red and black. Interesting. Yeah, blue is weird, kind of, for ground. It is a nice shade of blue, though. Give it that. I'm gonna leave those for now and try to put all of these things back. This was 3rd. And this was the next one after that. And this should be long enough now. Okay. So that leaves orange to be, in our case, RX, which is the next one down again from TX. And on this side, it's in between these two. So the other three, gray, purple, and blue, I guess is probably chip select, Backlight. Something for the SD card, maybe? There's an SD card on here as well. They've got them just connected to 5, 9, and 6. 5, 6, and 9. TFT chip select for 5. DC connects to our data command select pin. DC for 6. 9 for reset. But they could be any pins, which makes sense. So we will take we need 3 pins. I think we shouldn't use any 3 pins that are on the same SPI bus. I don't know if that's like a real fear or not, but it feels like we probably shouldn't. So we could jump down here and use these 3, 10, 11, 12. Or we could go like 13, 14, 15, which are the last 3 on the board, although separated by ground. Which makes them easy to find. We don't have to count as far. What is SPI default? Does this mean these are actually the defaults for and not these? I don't really get how the SPI buses work. Why there's so many pins that access the same bus? There's actually 3 copies of pins that access SPI 0 bus. Weird. Are we not using CS? CS. Should we be using SPI 0 CS for this one? I mean, there's a CS on the... Is there? Maybe there's not. Well, we'll start with 3 random pins. Maybe later we'll see if it matters if we use that CS. So I do like the idea of using the 3 at the end. So let's say 5 is going to be GP13, which is 4th from the end. Or, I mean, we could count the other way, I guess, right? Let's say 5 is going to be GP15 on the end. Five is gray. Gray, pretty much in the middle. So that's 3rd pin after the power on that side. 3rd pin after, and I do not have gray jumpers. I have a white one, I guess we could use that. It's very long. I'm just gonna use another green, I think. Oh, I never did connect back my ground. Yeah, that's going to be a very short hop as well, so I don't think we want to use this giant long cable. I'm going to use another green for gray. Green and gray, they both start with G. GR even. So that's third after the power. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to take that one to the last pin. The end there. Let's see. I don't know if I'm going to be quick enough to see that. Thanks for the follow, Dimitri over on Twitch. Appreciate that, my friend. Purple. Purple is going to 6 on this one. So we'll just take purple to the next one up on our Pico. 14. Purple I also don't have. So we're going to use an orange one for that. Get this one connected now. And so the last one is blue, and we need to skip one because of ground, and then will be the next one after that. And I do have a blue, but it's very long. So I'm going to use a yellow instead. Camera back. Got one skipped, and then our yellow that's being purple for Halloween. Ground is still connected. Power 1, power 2 are both still connected. Power's on that rail. Ground goes to here. Okay. I think we got everything wired. Plug this in. Display turns on. That's a good sign. Backlight's working at least. It won't draw anything meaningful, I don't think. Or even non-meaningful, really. It just won't draw anything until we get some more of this hooked up. Are we doing the part where it doesn't connect, huh? So this Pico sometimes doesn't show up the first time I plug it in. Very odd. Second time I plug it in this time. Cable going bad? Interesting. We jump to a different port on the hub, but that's the third different port that I've used in the last like day or two. And each time I move it, when that stops working, I wonder if I went back to the first one. I didn't actually try the first one. Okay, so backlight's on, device is actually connected now. Not sure what's up with that. So for the code I have from the ST7735 library, happens to be the display that's on my breakout. Simple test. But I assume we can't do that? Can we do that? Is there a SPI 0 or? I don't think so. We saw the board file earlier, right? Yeah. It's GP. Except for some A's. And CY. Okay. We'll need to find those, which means we'll need to use busio.spy and figure out the right things to pass to it. Clock, Mosi Miso. Clock was green here. GP2. CK. Mosi. That was TX, which is GP3. RX is the next one down, GP4. If TCS, we used they used 5. We used the bottom one here, GP15. DC, they used 6, and we used the next one, GP14. Reset, they used 9. Probably 13? Yeah, 13. I don't think that's right. Not a square green. 160 by 128. We definitely want to make sure to have that. Okay. Yeah, I think that should get us there. Probably it fails because we don't have this installed, but I'm gonna run it and see if that's the case. Yep. You can install that. Ooh, new version of Circuit. I output, so it didn't print anything. Also didn't show anything. So now we start troubleshooting. Make sure it's actually going to show. So we would make a group called Splash. We would show it on the display. Make a bitmap. Make a tile grid. Put it inside Splash. So the bitmap is 128 by 128 and red. So we'd make a red rectangle if it worked. Made 4-wire, made display. What do we think could be wrong here? Are there... Is this different? I did not see the R. Okay. We actually want this one, I guess. I'm not going to replace everything because we just got all of our pins in. I'll switch that out, and then we'll switch out this. Yeah, I was wondering if something like those needed to be done. Nice. By the R, yeah. I mean, I would guess we want these, but anything different happen if we get rid of them? No. So we could have the... We could have the PX and RX one swapped. Possibly. We could have wrong pins for these technically. We could have wrong pins for the SPI. We definitely have power and backlight though. So let's check through some of our connections here. Orange is right next to power on the left side. And they have orange running to MI. And I connected it to screen flashed a little bit. Wonder. Your ground is not actually solid enough. Second ground. Make sure we definitely have a good connection. And so I would assume that the light pin is this one out here. I actually get to see the backside of it. So there is actually a card CS also. And we're on the card CS. We are, because we're in 3 in a row for CS, DC, and reset. Let me double check. Yeah, power, ground, and then 1, 2, 3 right next to that. So we have, well, it's ground, power. Yeah, ground, power, And then we're in the next three, which means that we must be in card CS, not TFT CS. And that is the third one. In my circuit here is green, and green was filling in for gray. Huh. They don't actually have it in the TFTCS. I wonder if that's backwards in the diagram. Is it bad to just hot swap CS pin? Recommend that you wire power and ground directly to the breakout rather than using the rails to reduce the number of wires. Would make it easier to check connections. We could possibly do that. I have 2 pins. Yeah, I have 2 pins available. We could possibly do that. I'm gonna try switching the chip select here first, though. Because I think the power must be there for the backlight to be on. But maybe it's not solid. And it was like, before I added the other ground wire, kind of jostling it or touching the ground wire was making it sort of flash, so I do think the ground at least was not a super solid connection. But I believe the chip select would definitely be an issue. Looked over there. So I assume we would need to like rerun all of this for anything to have a chance of happening. Okay. That's better. Probably the orientation is wrong, would be my guess. That's why this end is just garbage. Also, we ended up with blue, and I'm pretty sure it was red, was it not? RGB, red. So we probably don't want this. And we probably don't want this, strangely enough. Did it reboot? I don't think it rebooted. Reboot? Did it change? Let's try one at a time. Maybe we put that back. It definitely rebooted. Ah, there we go. No, I don't. It must not have. It must not have run the latest one, I think. My notes from connecting a similar TFT. Oh, nice. You can hot swap select, but you may need to re-init. Okay. I feel like we're super close. Nice. It looks like you are on a the unexpected maker. I think those are the ones with the IO. So I think this. I do think this diagram is wrong, right? Can we see the wiring in any of these? We can't. But we can in this one. Yeah, and this shows it. This shows it because it's ground power, and then it's 1, 2, blank, and then chip select is the next one, and that would be the TFT chip select. So ground power 1, 2, blank is the key bit. But on this page, it is ground power 1, 2, 3, blank. So unless this example is meant for the SD card, which it does not appear to be. I think the fritzing is wrong. Unless, I mean, maybe if there was another different version of this, there is 1.8 breakout. Well, that's just Shield v2. So I did see one that looked different. I don't know where it went. Like this one looks different, right? It has these little wings for the mount holes, whereas this one is more just one rounded rect. So there's at least 2 revisions. Maybe. Oh, well, this one's just straight totally different anyway, because it's power in, power out, ground. SCK. This must be mostly in MISO. TFT chip select, reset, DC, card, chip select, light on the far end. So the power is kind of similar-ish, but not the same actually, because the new one doesn't have the power out, I don't think, or we skipped it if it does. But okay, we are still getting rotation. I bet you I would need to do rotation 0, yeah, because rotation stays the same, I think. Oh hey, got a ripple in there. Upside down. But I mean, I have it mounted backwards maybe too, I don't know. Hmm. Do we need to change the rotation? That's different. Because it was taking up whole square. It should be taking up the whole square though, because it is 128, 128. See? Yeah, now that's 128, 128. We have garbage up here for some reason. Can we get REPL text? Yes. Yeah, it does. If we break out to the REPL, it does show up. It's just still in the weird kind of contained box or whatever. Now the REPL is arguably the right way, in landscape now. So 90 degrees is in landscape. So would it be, is it, would we need these switched for this to work? Is it technically height, not width? The other thing is there's some like weird streaks in this kind of. Ah, there we go. That's what we want, I think. So now if this was now 160, confusingly back to width, I think. Yeah, then it's the full screen. And if we move it some this way, then it will scooch up, so there'll be black bar on this side. Yeah. Okay. Do we still have the streaks? Maybe? What is that? Is that a... Maybe that's just on the display itself. Yeah. There's periods in some of the text, but I don't think it's actually any kind of artifacts. It looks good. Directly to the eye. We should probably try to fix this if we can. I don't think I have fritzing? I don't have fritzing. I don't know if you can... Does fritzing work on Linux? Oh, right, you have to pay for it now. I did pay for fritzing once. Linux. Is it like distributed inside apt? Right? That'll work. Probably we're on a very old one, maybe? That's a 2016? 093? Was that what the newest one was? 0910. Okay, yeah, we're on a definitely out of date one. It's probably worth it though. I'll go ahead and pay for it. I'm not gonna do it like right this second on the stream, but well, I'll go back and look and see if I paid for it before. I may have paid at one point. Maybe not though. Maybe I misremember. Either way, it wasn't that much, and fritzing is amazing. So probably I'll just toss him another 10 or 20 bucks. Let's try and open this. Wonder if we're gonna have a problem with the version. So one thing I guess we could see, do you think anybody's reported this before? I logged in. I'm logged in. Result feedback. Oh no. Oh. Different module. Yep. Yeah. It was reported before. I don't know. Do you just open? I don't know how opening. I haven't used fritzing very much at all, truthfully. It looks like that's the one we can open. Able to find. Oh, but those are the parts right next to it, probably, right? Oh, but it's interesting. It's hard coded to Melissa. I see. How do we pull those? Because those parts, I think, are these two things. How do we get those in? You're just like... Directly loading. Art. Where did my stuff go? I guess it failed to open because it couldn't find those. Just failed to open. How do we open a part file? Or like add a part file? See 'em. Okay. It's maybe something to do with different versions. Anyway, I don't know if there's a way to tell what version these were generated from. Is this text? Or is it like is it a zip? Doesn't look like a zip. Text, XML. Is it worth trying to switch this? Oh, it's in another window. There's two windows. Let's see. Show up. I guess they must have changed the. I guess would be they must have changed the format. This is why those don't show up, even though we know they're in there. These FZP. Actually, a much older version. SVZ, FZPZ, CPZ. ZPZ, is that a zipped one? Ah. So the other one was like a feather in 4, I think? Alright, this is a bit of a side quest, but I figure since we found it and I have access to fix it, we should probably fix it while we're here. This is a feather in 4. Where was that library? Fritzing library, here we go. Parts. Oh, yeah, Fritzing library, thank you. Probably a minute ago. Interesting. I don't have it in the end of the breadboard. So it was gray? Yeah, it was gray. And it should be in the one that is empty now. Bloop. Now, how is it actually uploaded? I guess I needed that window, didn't I? How's it going, DJ Devin? Good morning. We are playing with displays and more specifically fixing documentation. So it's a JPEG. Can you export your thing as a JPEG from this, or? What is BB? Breadboard? Okay. So we can swap the image and swap the download fetching object. Started playing with the new users page last night. Kept disconnecting me. The new users page. Gonna be a long guide. I got the intro written. New users page. New users for Adafruit.io or? We're gonna go replace this with this one. I don't know. I don't actually know how assets get added in. You'll go to learn, click on account user pages. I did not know this existed. I just opened it up, just opened Learn Guide Creation to Anyone last night. Oh, okay. You can, yeah, this, I was gonna say, I mean, it looks like the editor for the Learn system, like a pared down version of it, I guess. But probably it's because we don't have a page yet. That's pretty cool. So it's kind of like open to the public to make pages. It's tricky business though, right? It needs to be moderated probably. Like we're close. Link resources, embed. Ooh. Embed. That's going to be a YouTube embed video. How to, at the end of your guide, put a page called resources. Not mark the page as published. Place files as embedded files. I see. Files will show up as green boxes. System will have the file saved. It will be uploaded to someone pressing the green button. downloaded to someone who presses the green button. Only page here? This is the only page that's disabled. Green button. It was a green button, so I guess it was just an embed. So do we have to just create a new embed? Thinking we may just have to create a new embed, probably. This is not even the right page. Did we? I guess it is. It's a green button, but maybe that's also, I mean, it's a blue button. You can change the button once it's on there. I guess saves files in the diagram ending with FCZ. Be within the guide for folks down the road. Other files you used PowerPoint for a diagram can also be put. At the end of your guide, put a page called Resources. Do not mark the page as published. It won't ever be published externally. Place files on the page as embedded files. Files show up as green boxes. The system will have saved the file and the file will be uploaded to someone pressing the button. Feel free to add text to this page. It would help employees 100 years in the future understand how your guide was done. Embed. So do you just drag and drop the file? There is this page which is not published, but this is not a resources page. This just looks old. Perhaps not all the way complete. I think it probably just got unpublished because it was out of date, would be my guess. And the newer pages cover this same stuff. The only thing I could think is it might want you to drop this to here, but no. Okay, I think we are tapping out on this. I don't want to mess anything up. I don't recall ever having done a file asset before, like a fritzing object, so it appears I've hit my limit of knowing how to do it, and I don't want to mess up anything. So what I'm going to do is, there's a learn guide channel. I was using Firefox on my iPad, which shows up as Safari. Was in bed last night, 4 a.m. when the user pages opened up. Nice. How's it going, Paul SK? MySpace for Adafruit Learn Guides. Yeah, well, I would use it with the keyboard and mouse probably before passing too much judgment. My assumption would be that it was developed primarily with a desktop interface, which is not to say that it shouldn't work well on a tablet, or that they definitely should strive to make it work well on a tablet, but as a thing that was just released yesterday, I would not be surprised if the majority of the development occurred on a desktop with a mouse and keyboard. So it's worth giving it a try, I think, in that context before passing too much judgment on it. API won't accept it. Too many characters? Don't know. You can embed. I mean, if it's the same editor, which I don't know if it is or not. I haven't actually looked at it. If it is the same editor, what I will say though is you can use. There's two different ways to put code. One of them is make a code object, which is basically just like a text object, which you paste code into. The other one is embed code, which can be on GitHub, which is the one I try to use more often than not, because that one also links the user over to GitHub at the bottom of the embed box, which is nice. So if you have something that's too long, you might try embedding it from GitHub if it's hosted in there already, or if not, then you could make a repo and host it in there. That might be worth a try too. I don't even know. I mean, maybe copy pasting on iPads. Is it arbitrarily large? I've never really messed with an iPad too much, really. I don't know what the kind of limitations there are around that might be in the OS on that too. Maybe there's none, but learn Adafruit authors. Sorry, I'm putting a note in the Learn Authors thing here. Maybe Anne or Kenny will have an idea of how to get this in there come next week or sometime. Okay. Xbox works great. Or I have to refresh whenever a new page or object changes, otherwise the graphics will be invisible. Interesting. I don't like how it requires an active connection to the Adafruit server in order to work. I don't know. I mean, the technological reality is they want it to have like ultimate undos and everything also, and they want everything to be backed up inside the server, so like, I don't know. I never really have issues on a laptop with Wi-Fi or Ethernet. Again, I haven't tried it from a tablet, but like, sounds like the tablet has Wi-Fi trouble, kind of. It'd be nice if the page didn't require it, I suppose, but I'd be way more concerned if you couldn't view Learn Guides from an iPad than if you can't edit and create Learn Guides from an iPad, personally. I don't, I mean, like me personally, I wouldn't want to use a tablet to create it anyway, because there's too much typing and too much copy pasting, too much like jumping to the browser in order to go to a different tab, in order to copy a link, in order to paste it in, go into a product page to get a product number. Like, I have a, I mean, I always have a billion tabs open, kind of, but when I'm working on a Learn Guide or, a Learn Guide page, as it were in this case, like, I always have a lot of things open and I'm always copy pasting. It's not something I'd really want to do from a tablet, even if the connection was rock solid, personally. Maybe if you had a mouse, like if you had a mouse plugged in. I also don't know. Again, I haven't used an iPad very much. Maybe jumping between apps is easier than I'm imagining, but the tablets I do have experience with, which are Android, I would give up. Probably I'd get frustrated jumping around too much and copy pasting. Maybe if you had a mouse or a keyboard plugged in and Control C, Control V worked, might not be so bad. Product thing doesn't work. I put in 881 and nothing happens. This browser is not Chrome that every website's designed for. Wouldn't say that's true. I don't believe that's true. Chrome and Firefox are certainly hold a large share of the browser market, and lots of people target both of those. I think Safari is not like a small share though either. I think people do plenty of stuff to support Safari. I mean, you're in a weird spot anyway. If your Firefox is identifying itself as Safari, then it's like some kind of in between, right? Like, is that actually Firefox or is that like Apple Firefox? I don't know. I can't. I don't really have any insight though, because again, like I have not used an iPad pretty much at all. I made one app that ran on an iPad. I met up with the person who I made it before, and I tested it on the iPad. And I learned that I hate iPads because they have a mute switch, which is also like a screen rotation switch or something. Boy, I just remembered that. Man, I hunted for like a full day trying to figure out why that app was not making sound, and the thing was literally muted by the display rotation switch or something. Oh man, I had blocked that memory out. Goodness. Think Safari takes over Firefox? Yeah, that is odd. That is very odd. I have pretty good luck with Firefox on a desktop though. Like as far as like pages that work in Chrome, I tend to see them work the same in Firefox with the exception of minor details like there are UI differences. The file chooser is slightly different, the color chooser I think is slightly different. There's a couple like default inputs that are slightly different, but functionality wise these days generally things are pretty well supported between those two from what I see. Is like I work on my own little one section of the internet, kind of like, um, so you know, I'm not out there everywhere, but the pages and the frameworks that I see tend to be pretty solid across both. There is some interesting stuff like this. This is probably my font size though, right? Like I have a weird font size chosen, I think, which is probably making this happen. Anyway, let's see if we can. Only about, I think, probably 20 minutes. I don't know. Maybe we'll go over. We'll see what time it is, what we're feeling like. I think it'd be nice, though. Let's see if we can hook up the... where is the camera? See, yeah, you see, like, I have a problem with tabs. I'm in, like, 3 different browsers here, and each of them have, like, a half a dozen tabs open. I can't... Tablets and me don't get along for that reason. I can't open enough stuff. Although it's not great either, right? Because I couldn't even find the right tab to get back to. Is this live still? Yeah, okay. Let's try to hook up this Neo key. So Neo key 1x4. No web serial with Firefox. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Web serial. Well, I haven't looked at web serial in a minute. Last time I looked at web serial, though, it was like a have to go into the browser's like config options and enable it somewhere. It was like super alpha. I don't know. Maybe that's not the case anymore. But that's the last thing I remember about using web serial. Maybe it's on by default in some. I wouldn't be surprised that it's not on a tablet, though. The thing is, like, the tablet... I mean, the tablet OS might not give it a serial port that can work through the USB, just a standard one. Like, there might be some weird API for it. It may be available, but it might not just be the same API that you would need to use. Web workflow works fine? Yeah. I've used on the S2. And I did do a bit with the REPL as well. Well, but that's through the web though, right? That's a WebSocket anyway, not a. Can we use so the core must have REPL implementation? I mean, a WebSocket implementation for the REPL. Can we use the core's WebSockets to make our own WebSocket server? That's not for REPL, but for other stuff. Does that make sense? That'd be pretty sweet. How do we connect this? I guess, I mean, it's I2C, I suppose, so... There we are. Okay, this is what we want. So we need 3 volts in ground. I guess I'll probably just connect voltage last. That seems safer, right? Ground. Power I'll do last. Yellow is SCL and blue is SDA. And we will use I2C0 because, well, but it interacts with SPI0. But we didn't end up using that pin, so it should be okay, right? Although I2C1 pins 14 and 15 right here. Well, GPIO 10, GPIO 11. These are on SPI 1. Maybe it's safer to do that way. So we did these bottom 3 skipping the ground, so GP13. 12 we would skip, and then 11 and 10 are SCL and SCA. And of those, yellow is SCL, and SCL is GP11. We have one blank after that, and then GP11. Blue would be SDA. Next one down, GP10, and then red would be on 3 volts, which we have on the rail. And the power came on. That is probably a good sign. Got green LED down here. Are the neopixels on different pins? Or are the neopixels part of the I2C connection as well? Figured it would use web serial. Well, I mean, web workflow is all about not being plugged in over USB. If you're not using I2C specifically on the pins, then it's still available. It's per protocol, per pin. It's per I2C bus, which there are 2. I'm using I2C 0 for one multiplexer, I2C 1 for another. That's what allows you to have 16 pins for the step switches. Neopixels are controlled through the seesaw. Okay. We should be able to do some stuff with those as well. So we'll go bus IO, I2C, board. Is it gonna be, which order do they go in here? SCL first. Which was 11, yeah, okay. Is 30 the default, hopefully? Let's try pixels. If that works, we should get pink on one of the LEDs. Except we're in the REPL. We need to run it, and we need to install NeoKey. There we are. Let's see here. Can't quite get everything perfect, but we got our pink there. So I would guess that our keys are working as well. Let's double check. if neo key 0. So we know that 0 is on the far end. I did not plug in the switch into 0. So in our loop, we could go if neo key 3, neo key pixels 3, go blue. Nice. Okay. Nice. Yeah, that makes it super easy to interact with. So now let's say we wanted to change let's tie the two together. We're not gonna get all the way to the trivia because I'm probably gonna head out before too long here, but we've got our circuit set up to the point where we could actually start making the trivia. We have all the hardware we need. But to tie these two together a bit more, let's make it so when you press the button, the display here changes to blue. Maybe we'll set up different colors for each button. Something like that. So in addition to this, we're also going to go color palette 0, blue. And we should maybe just go to black by default when it's off. And then it'll change colors when we press, and it'll go back to black when we release, the same way this does. There we go. So I'll put a few more switches on, and then we'll set up one color for each one. We'll call that our example code that is kind of proof of concept of all the hardware that we need. Which is pretty nice, actually. I think this is the first time I've used a display with a Raspberry Pi Pico, and certainly a Pico W. Went pretty well. We figured out the diagram was wrong. We're on the wrong chip select pin. We definitely needed a fix, but beyond that, the process went pretty well. Once we got it connected, our driver linked right up with it. Got to play with the rotation a bit and the size. I don't think that's anything specific to the Pico, though. That just depends on your breakout, which way it's connected. So there's 4 buttons. And why don't we do this a little bit more Pythonically? Let's get rid of that. Let's go colors is a list. So we'll say, we'll stick with blue on the first one. Go green. We will go pink. Yellow. Four colors means we can go for I in range, or actually we could go for I color in enumerate colors. If neo key I is pressed, then go I color. This one will always be 0. Yeah, I think that does it, right? Hope to play trivia someday on the Feather S2 TFT. Yeah, I bet you we will get there. I am pretty confident we will get there. I would say that's like my go-to device, so I suspect there's not many projects that I will make moving forward that don't at least have some capable version on that device, just because I keep it on my desk and test with it. Oh, interesting. Oh, I see. Uh, hmm. Let's go, any pressed. Well, is there like neokey dot pressed? Is there like something that will just tell us true false if any keys are pressed? Because that would help. This is the learn guide. S2 has TFT input buttons. Has a boot button only, I think. But I think you can use the boot button. But I'd probably hook up the Neo key to it. Or the web version, the one we started last night, actually theoretically would work on the Feather TFT, because I did try bigger files on the Feather TFT and it did work. So like we could maybe go back to the web version on the ESP TFT and do some like combination screen on the device plus the web output from the browser. No, it doesn't seem to have any kind of high level like is any pin pressed type thing. So we will go any pressed equals false. We will go any pressed equals true. We will go any pressed equals false. If not any pressed, set the screen back to black. There we go. That's kind of fun. Oh. I love graphics programming because the bugs are visual. Like, I didn't intend for this to behave this way, but it's fun to play with, right? Like, kind of interesting, actually. Anyway. Yeah. I like the way that you get to choose which colors. And you can make it 3 or even 4. That's actually really fun to play with. Uh, boot button is available as board button. Seesaw doesn't have a keypad like API. Okay, those are just boot reset in a different location. Yeah, I think once you're done booting though, after you finish booting, you can use it as a general I/O pin, I think. Okay, so I think I'm gonna call it there for today. We got the display hooked up, we got the buttons hooked up. So next time I work on this project, what we'll do is get the trivia stuff implemented. So we'll hit the trivia API, we'll get back our questions, we'll put the questions on the display, we'll put the 4 answers on the display, maybe with like A, B, C, D, or maybe we'll even go with the colors, since we have the colors in there already. See how we do it. I don't know. There's different ways we could do it. User will press the buttons to submit their answer. Game will keep track of score. We'll keep track if they got correct or not, and output it at the end. Eventually, maybe we could let them cycle through categories by pressing the buttons or something. We did a drop down for that in the web version yesterday. But something like, now that we have a couple of buttons to input, we could kind of have like up-down arrows or something that goes through a list. A couple of different ways we could do it, but yeah, I think that'll be the goal. And then I will probably, like I was saying, we will probably, I think, get back to the web version on this one, because I did test a bigger page, and it didn't seem to be an issue on that device. So the web version is interesting to me as well, to write out the JavaScript code that it's going to use on the website. I know it's not CircuitPython, but it's front and center in my brain right now because I'm teaching a JavaScript class. So you could use debouncer. Yeah, debouncer, it has a function one, so you can have it read anything you need pretty much. It would be good to have an example. I do agree. Have a couple of scripts. Yeah, having the debouncer example, that was something either somebody asked about that or was asking questions around that concept a couple of weeks back, and I thought to myself it'd be good to make that example one of these days. Never used a seesaw yet. Yeah, it's very versatile. It's like, I mean, it's like a Swiss Army knife. It's basically like, I mean, a seesaw is basically just a smaller microcontroller, right? Like, it's pretty much a whole nother one of these computers, just a smaller one. It's not as powerful as this one. It can't run all of CircuitPython on it, but it can still run Arduino code, and the Arduino code can talk back and forth with the CircuitPython, right? So, and it has, I don't know how many I/O pins, but you can configure them to be inputs or outputs, PWMs. You can do all kinds of stuff with them. Even some devices have parts of the display connected through a seesaw. The Monster Mask is like that. It's very versatile little chip for expanding. It's almost like an I/O expander that is its own little microcontroller. It's like a generalized I/O expander. Instead of just, taking 3 pins and giving you back 8 pins, it's like taking an I2C bus and give you back, like 10 pins and some inputs and some outputs and some PWMs and all kinds of stuff. Yep. Yep. We will get it put together next time. So thank you everybody for watching. I hope everybody has a good weekend, and yeah, I'll catch you all next time. Appreciate all the folks hanging out in the chat. C. Grover, thanks again for the heads up on the breadboard. I definitely would have been scratching my head about that for a while, so I'm glad we got that caught early, and now I know, and knowing's half the battle. There we are. Yeah, Cricket's a good one. That's got Seesaw as kind of the brain of it. Alrighty, folks. Have a good day. I'll see you all next time.